John Batchelor with John Avlon of CNN and the Daily Beast, and we have heard from Wall Street, we've heard from the White House, and now we've heard from the Senate, and we're going to puzzle through this because it is very difficult at this point to come up with one narrative that explains why the president went out so late by himself, making an announcement that was jammed into the evening news, not operative. What's available to the President of the United States is the full Rose Garden 11 a.m. press conference with cameras from around the world, or an evening announcement, a speech announced 8 o'clock tomorrow night. So I put that to Mr. Avlon, who's a professional and knows these things, can anticipate these things. We don't have all the information now, but we have a little bit of it. So what are your thoughts, John?
My only thought, and it's always helpful to try to put yourself in the position of the people in the room, is that there was a decision made to rush this. And I'm going to give the president the benefit of the doubt, out of the belief, I would think, that if he broke it, he would determine, in effect, the terms of the debate. That he would push through the notion of a compromise, and therefore, in his perception, perhaps make it more difficult for others to back out later. But as you know, and as other callers have pointed out, A, he seemed to talk down the deal during the announcement. B, it denied him the optics of the big unifying announcement where Republicans and Democrats were standing beside him, and he was the great unifying figure, famously the Bill Clinton, Yasser Arafat, Rabin type scenario. Now there seems to be chaos. Senate not fully consulted, Republicans talking about bolting, Democrats talking about bolting. This may have been a rush play of the hand that causes more problems than it solves.
And we have not heard from a lot of significant voices that we're going to, immediately get media attention. When will you, a senator, get on the phone, Senator, will you comment on the president's remarks? We'll probably get those late tonight. We're going to get them tomorrow from all aspects of the Senate, the new senators as well, the men who are not the men who are not sworn in yet are also going to comment. So there's going to be a free fire zone for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, there sure is. And look, it's expected that the left would be unhappy with this deal. You could hear those drum beats in the distance for a long time. And I personally think that the Schumer threshold made a lot of sense as a compromise. Would have been difficult for the Republicans to defend having an absolute position. But now the far left is angry for rational reasons. And what stuns me is the reports we've heard tonight that the far right seems just massively determined to deny Obama any kind of a victory. And so they're talking about bolting and anger and a lot of angry chants on that side. That is a really troubling sign, not just for the White House, but I would argue for the United States.
I want to go back several months, back to August, September, before the election. What is in this deal that couldn't have been done in September and October before the election and go to the American people to have them endorse it? Mrs. Pelosi and Harry Reid are still in place as they were then. The numbers are the same. Why wait till the end? I can't come up with a good reason.
Well, you raise a great point. I think the answer is that what we have now that we didn't then is a verdict, a definitive verdict. I think folks on the left were not in the mood to compromise, and certainly folks on the left were not in the mood to compromise. This compromise shows that, A, the president is playing a role as conciliator-in-chief. He is not and has never been, per se, an executive. He is a legislator. He is a deal maker, and not a particularly hard poker player at that. The second thing is this does show that he has internalized to some extent the results of this election. This is a decidedly center-right deal, not a center-left deal, and that shows, I think, the results of the election.
START. David mentioned it when you asked him about it, David Drucker. The new START treaty. I've spoken with John Bolton, I've spoken with Ed Meese, and I will summarize their opinion. This deal is not good for the United States. It must be reconsidered by the Senate. No rush to it now. A letter from the new senators, led by Roy Blunt from Missouri, asking for the deal to be delayed until the 112th Congress so that they have an opportunity to comment. John Kyle has been, what you'd have to say, ambivalent about it for the last 2 weeks. The president, however, has insisted that the deal must be done. Deeper irony is that in WikiLeaks we have demonstration from our State Department that the Russians whom we're making this deal with are not reliable. I think they use stronger words than that. I'll just leave it at not reliable. So what is the president getting out of this?
I think the president is trying to act presidential. The significant thing for me is the vast majority of the military and the vast majority of former secretaries of state, especially Republican secretaries of state, all are saying this needs to be passed. And you have seen a shift in the tide, it seems to me, over even the last week, where now Pat Buchanan and other folks on that end of the political spectrum are saying this must be passed. So the delay tactic does seem to be primarily political. I think Kyle's hand has gotten weakened. It will be interesting to see whether this deal that has been struck on taxes and the economy, it precludes some sort of an other shift on start. I think that Republicans are increasingly saying, look, this is going to pass, it's just a matter of when. But I do think the president's invested an enormous amount of political capital in something that, from a larger perspective, seems inevitable in that it'll pass. It's just the timing that has been questioned.
And then the smaller pieces, but of major importance to different groups. Don't Ask, Don't Tell, The Dream are, from what I heard tonight, they're not going to make it.
Well, they are fading but not done, and the president is certainly going to need to be able to show something to his progressive base after this deal. He's going to need some kind of carrots to go with this stick, and either Don't Ask, Don't Tell or Dream would seem that it has to be it. He's going to have a lot of angry folks on the left, and they're by no means certain not to bolt when it comes to this deal unless they have the prospect of a victory before the lame duck is over.
John Avlon, the author of Wingnuts and of CNN and the Daily Beast. We're going to turn to the Federal Reserve next. Jobs, jobs, jobs. And Ben Bernanke on television these last hours saying that it's 4 or 5 years before we recover jobs. I'm John Batchelor.